Hello, welcome to today's video. It's Tuesday the 10th of October. What is today's video about? It's about protecting our lawn going into the winter. It's fast approaching, the leaves are falling, plenty of dew around in the mornings, which means autumn's nearly here. Now, there's loads of things that can happen with all these variables that we've got. So today I'm going to be showing you what we can do to counteract them and to get the best out of our lawn in the winter. So join me in a sec and we'll get going. Okay, so one of the first things we think of when we say autumn, I think most of you will agree, it is the leaves are starting to fall. Now in the main, if you've got just a few leaves, these ain't going to cause too much of a problem. But if you've got a big horse chestnut tree or a big sycamore tree and they all fall in one area like they have here, then we're going to have problems. So let's have a closer look at what problems we've got today with this pile of leaves that I've left here for a week, just for you to see. Okay, so I've got this pile of leaves here, so I've deliberately left this down here for a week. Obviously, for me to show you what happens, I have to leave them on, so I'm not a hypocrite or anything like that. I just did it for scientific purposes. So we can see already that just leaving those leaves on for a week, just sat there, it started to kill the grass because one, lack of light, and then with that it creates a microclimate under there, and then we start getting disease. So we've got the lack of light, and then we've probably got a bit of fusarium there as well, or renamed microdotium patch, which if not treated right, you can spread the spores with your mower and then the whole thing will just be covered. So we've got to be careful. So the first job we've got to do today is get all these leaves up. Just got my leaf rake, so we'll just rake these up, get these up, and then we can decide what we're going to do next and see what the next problem of the autumn is. Yeah, so today I'm just using my B&Q Magnusson rake, perfect for this type of work. If you've got a bigger area, just get the blower out. Like, you know, when I start filming, somebody else starts blowing, which is really annoying. Happens all the time, almost like it's done on purpose. So we'll just get these up. Quite a lot of conker shells around as well from the horse chestnut. Latin name, I know the Latin name for a horse chestnut, or a European horse chestnut, which is Usculus hippocastanum. How many of you knew that? Quite good with my trees as well. And we will have to do the weed ident test as well at some point. I don't know if you've been learning them, but I might just stick them on at the end of this video and we'll go through them, see what they are. So we'll just pick these leaves up, out of a vacuum. You could mow these if they're in like that area, you could just get away with mowing those up. Okay, so I've just picked the leaves up, got that big dead patch now. Can you imagine if this lawn was totally covered in those horse chestnuts for a week? We'd have this kind of damage all over, so it's very important that we pick them up. Sycamores as well, these absorb water like the horse chestnuts do, so they stick to the ground. Beech leaves you can get away with for a bit longer because these are a bit more waterproof and they just tend to like just hover on the surface really, and they don't cause too much damage, but still got to pick them up, but just get a bit more time. But sycamores and horse chestnuts are big and they get slimy and just stick to anything, especially paving stones, as they're quite hard to get up with a brush. So yeah, so let's go on with the next topic, which is worms. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do to try and protect our lawn in the winter is try and get rid of these worm casts. We're never going to do it 100%, so what we do is we can just take our rake and we can just disperse it that way. If there's only a few, if there's quite a lot, it could be a bit tedious, but if you want a nice lawn, these are things you have to do and get used to. Might be a few conkers knocking about as well. Squirrels burying those. So we get those out as well because the mower will just push those into the ground and they will actually root if you don't take them out, and you'll have a horse chestnut growing in the middle of your lawn. Now the next thing you could do also, if you didn't want a rake, is get your blower and you can disperse them with your blower. Quite an efficient way as well. Do that way, or what I have found is that I use something called sapphire green, and there's quite a few, it's not a chemical, so it doesn't do any damage to the worm itself. It's just a product which is high in sulphur, and apparently worms don't like sulphur. It doesn't do them any harm, but they don't like it. And this has had 2 doses, and as much as we've not cured the problem of worm cast, we've definitely got a reduction. Absolutely, definitely has worked, because over this area we get massive ones, as you've seen in other videos, like Mr. Whippy sized ones, and especially over on that little bit of a dog leg over there. That is ridiculous, but it really has calmed them down. So look into that. That's called Sapphire Green. I think there's some other ones called not cast off. You have a clear cast or cast off. Cast off, I think, was the chemical that was been banned, so you can't use that. But I think clear cast is the similar version of this high sulphur. It's just a fertiliser at the end of the day, and you do get a bit of a green up from it as well. And I put some on about 4 weeks ago, so we're definitely due another dose of that, because I've just been monitoring it and seeing if it works, and I'm really happy with the results. At Steve's job, it's not been great, as you've seen on that one. It's not been as not been as much as if at all, really. So I don't know, it depends on what kind of conditions you've got as to whether it works or not. But here it's worked, there it's not worked, and that's what, even though I've had it in my shed for the last 4 years, I've just been reluctant to use it because I've not heard anything good about it. But this year, Watcher got in touch and just said, I've tried this, and I've seen a real improvement in my lawn, so I just thought, well, we'll give it a go. And, you know, been wasting my time for 4 years blowing worm casts, and it actually works on some lawns. So maybe worth thinking about if you've got a big lawn or you just don't want to rake or blow your worm casts off. So let's get on with the next job, which is giving this lawn a cut and getting rid of this morning dew, which we'll be discussing next. All right, so the next thing on the list for protecting our lawn in the winter is removing the morning dew. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. You can do it with a brush or a switch. A switch is like a long fiberglass pole with a really long tail on it, and you go along and you go like this, but not everybody's got one of those, and they don't really work very well on longer grass. They're more for golf greens where they can really ride along the short surface. So if you don't want to be mired with doing that every day, there is another option, which is reduce. It's called reduce because it reduces dew. Now what it does is it coats the leaf, so any condensation that forms overnight slides off into the lawn. So this is great for watering because it's a form of irrigation in itself. But what happens is, as the dew forms and the sun shines, it creates a greenhouse effect, and then what happens is it creates a heat source under that canopy, which is favourable for disease like Fusarium. And we have got a little bit here, so we need to treat this today. This had a dose a few weeks ago, but because of the weather, we've just not been able to get on anything, so we're going to treat this today. So let's get on with that now. What we're going to do is just to get rid of it, we're just going to mow the lawn, which will do that in itself. So you can brush and that, but if you are going to mow, just mow it off. But it does help to blow it off first, because what happens is your grass gets clogged up in the mower, and you'll have to empty your box mower and turn the mower over and scrape it all out because it's quite wet under there. So let's get on with that, and then we'll get on with the next bit, which is giving this lawn a bit of a vertical. Okay, so next job, cutting the lawn. It's important to keep cutting your lawn in the autumn, just to keep the leaves off, as we discussed earlier. And the grass is really actively growing as well. It's probably the most actively growing that it will ever be, just because we've got the great temperatures, like 17 degrees today. But yeah, we've got all the moisture in the soil, so it's just great conditions for grass growth. So what else does it do? Obviously it picks up any stray leaves that are sitting on the surface as well. And from a decorative point of view, it's lovely to have your lawn striped as well. So I've got it on number 3. Let's give it a cut, and then we'll get on with our next job, which will be that verticut to remove the thatch that we want to get out, ready for all our products that are going on. Okay, so you can just see the disease that I was talking about earlier, all that mycelium there. It's quite a big patch of Fusarium, really. I can't think it is anything else, doesn't look like anything else, and you don't really get that white mycelium with anything else. So this is one of the wettest areas of the lawn, coupled with the fact that it's just not stopped raining for 2 weeks. I've had COVID, so I've been off, not really been at the races with anybody's lawn, really, as you've noticed in a lack of video. But we're going to be on it today, so we'll get the verticutter out and we'll just take some of this dead stuff out, which will help going forward. We'll get our products on, and then this one will not be signed off for the winter, but this will be the last thing we do here, and then it'll just be a case of keeping the leaves off and keeping it cut. Okay, so we're just ready to go on with the verticutter. I've just got it at 0 today. We're not going to do too much with it. I don't want to do any damage. Now, if your lawn is really wet, or you just feel that you're not going to be able to get on it, don't do this step because you'll do more harm than good at this time of year, because we've not got the time for it to recover like if we were doing the damage in March. Say we know we've got the rest of the summer ahead to get it back, whereas now we wouldn't. So if you've any doubt, just cut it out is what they say. So let's get on with the verticutting. I know we can do this because it's really firm, but if you're not sure, just leave it. Okay, so what a transformation of the lawn in terms of appearance, what the verticutter does. It gets everything going in the right direction. So we can just have a look up close now. Freed it up a lot, so we can get a bit of air moving through it, dry some of this water out, thus cutting down our chance of disease outbreak. Look in our bag. All this has come out all slimy, all wet. Look at that. If you squidge it, look how compact it gets. So when you think you drive over with your mower and that'll get squashed, just creates a waterproof. That would not let any water through that. And then that's why we start getting disease and everything breaking out because of this stuff. Okay, so that's the lawn cut and verticut and looking great. Most of us would be happy with that, but I'm not. So what next? What other things do we need to think of going into the winter months? What's the main thing that we usually get is moss. So there's a few things we can do to stop this happening. We can leave our grass a little bit longer. If we start scalping our lawn, especially in wet areas, this is just going to be an absolute haven for cushion mosses, and these are going to take over. So you'll find on your lawn, I mean, I get it here around the edges where there's wood and it's forever wet and the lawn is just scalped ever so slightly with the trimmer. You get quite a lot of moss growing there. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our products on. We've got Autumn Punch, we've got Dan's Winter Magic, our liquid feed, same as Dan's Magic, but it's for winter. It's got iron in it, and then we're going to go on with Orbit as well, just to help us with our lack of light areas. And then after that, we'll go on with our Reduce to stop that morning dew formation. So let's get on with that, and then we'll have a chat about what's in the product when we mix them all together. All right, so now our lawn is cut and ready to go. We're going to go on with Autumn Punch first. This is because what we don't want to do is spray the lawn with our liquids and wet the leaf, and then when we go on with the Autumn Punch, the granules stick to the leaf because we want those in the ground. So always go on with the granular first. Then we'll go on with Dan's Magic Liquid Lawn Feed for winter. This has got iron in it, so this will help inhibit the moss. Then we'll just go on with our normal stuff. So we've got Grace, Stella, Orbit and Wetting Agent. Grace is our antioxidant, our vitamins A, C and E. We've got Stella, which is our seaweed for our roots, because we want to keep those active and working over the winter, because they're going to be getting the grass ready for next year. We've got Orbit, which is our molasses, which is our carbohydrates, which is what the lawn needs anyway in its raw format, carbohydrates. That's what it stores. So what that'll do is that'll help give our lawn a feed, especially in the shady areas where it's not going to get much sun. If we've got the beeswax extract in there, whatever sun we do get, it's going to maximise its potential. And then another one is a wetting agent we're going to use, because if we can keep the water going through the surface, one of the main reasons we get moss is because the grass is wet and moss loves water. So if we can get that water away from the surface, we reduce the chances of getting moss. So we'll put some of that in as well. And then normally what we would do is go on with our Reduce, but because that really needs to go on its own on a separate occasion, we'll do that tomorrow instead, but we'll put that on, and then that'll help protect us going forward. So I don't have to come and brush the lawn every day. It's just not feasible for me to do that. So we'll get all these mixed up, get them on, and then we'll talk about leather jackets and fungicides. Okay, so we're just going to go on with our Autumn Punch. Going to go on at 29 today. Don't want to give myself loads of growth. We wouldn't get loads of growth anyway, but obviously if you put more on, if I go on at 32, we're going to get more growth like it's these. But I know that we can get on that because it doesn't get very wet, whereas here, when it gets really wet, it gets really wet because the drainage isn't great. So what has Autumn Punch got in it? It's a 649 NPK, so that means it's got 6% nitrogen, 4% phosphate and 9% potassium. It's got iron in there, it's got magnesium in there, calcium in there. Iron and magnesium are going to give you the really good colour and some moss inhibit kind of qualities, and the calcium is for our cell wall strength. So we'll get that on, and then we'll get on with our liquids. Okay, so we're ready to mix up our batch of stuff. First of all, we'll get our Stella 2 mil per square metre, so I know this lawn's 300, so I need 600 mil. Just enough in there. What I've got in here already, I've already put my sapphire green in for the worms. That goes on at 200 mil per 100 square metres, so this needs 600. So again, all these are 2 mil per square metre, so again just enough left in there. Going with wetting agent as well. I don't know if I've got enough of that to do what I need to do, but we'll just put in what I've got. All these can be mixed together because it's going to rain later, so we can just mix them all up, time it right, because we don't want to put all this in and then not have any rain. So all that in there. We'll put my reduce on at a later date. What I'll mix in now is my winter green. Now I need 1 litre does 100 square metres, so I'll need 3 litres in here. But just to show you, even though how strong it is in terms of how it packs a punch, I'm just going to put the whole bottle in, just to show you that it is really mild, and if you did overdose, there's no problem at all. Absolutely no issue. Fortune favours the brave. So I've already put a little bit of water in the tank already, and we'll just pour this straight in. Always put a bit in your tank first, because if you just pour in concentrate into the bottom of the tank, that, because it's gravity fed, like almost, if you pump that up, it will just dribble out the end. If you took the nozzle off, it would just all come out. So what happens is this all would sink to the bottom of the nozzle, and then what you're doing is you're firing out all concentrate at the beginning before it mixes up properly. So always stick a little bit in the bottom just so it can mix together. And just because the Autumn Punch has iron in it, just make sure you blow off any granules off any paths, as it could stain. Okay, so before we go, 2 more things to discuss to get our lawn looking great for the autumn and making sure it continues to stay that way until next year. They are leather jackets and fungicides. Leather jackets are the daddy longlegs larvae, which they've just laid, and they will be beginning to hatch anytime soon. So it's important that we get those treated now, so when they hatch, that can work. Now there's 2 ways you can do it. There is the nematodes, which I don't think there's any evidence to suggest they work, because there's no evidence to suggest, unless you've got a microscope at the point of exit on the nozzle and you can get that under the microscope and have a look to see if they're actually alive, then there's no evidence to suggest that once you've mixed them with water, put them through a filter in your sprayer, because there's always a filter in there, and they're out, that they're alive. But this year they have approved a chemical by the name of acetaliprid, which can only be applied by professionals like myself, but not me. So if you want to get rid of the leather jacket problem, then try your local lawn care franchise. I've no doubt we'll be offering that as a service this year. The numbers are just rife with leather jackets, so I think they've had to act. They've been trying it on the golf courses and the airfields, because the airfields, believe it or not, need the grass growing, so they can't have any damage to their grass, because the birds can't land if there's long grass, so they don't get the air strikes. So there's that to do. Also, whilst they're there doing that, ask them about the fungicides. I can apply fungicides because I've got the license, but I know you can't. But it is imperative at this time of year that you do get a fungicide on the lawn, because no matter what we do culturally, we do need fungicides, I believe. If you don't believe we do, then that's fine. You soldier on ahead, but for me, fungicides are a must. And if it wasn't for fungicides, believe it or not, we'd all be dead because there'd be no crops. So be careful what you wish for in that respect. So that's this video done now. Hopefully you've learned something today on all the practices that we can do to make sure our lawn gets to next year in tip-top condition. So if you've liked it, give it a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you next time when we'll be doing something else lawn related here on Daniel Hibbert Lawn Expert. Take care and we'll see you soon.